Critical reflection supports efforts at challenging teachers' assumptions about student learning and their capabilities. The same can be said about teachers' assumptions of the families they engage with as well. The goal, or the actual ultimate goal of critical reflection is praxis. Praxis is the combination of reflection and action aimed at transforming the world. So praxis is really a continuous cycle of applying theory into action and then reflecting on it. So it's really not enough for people to come together and dialogue to gain knowledge on their social reality. Saying that I hold close to myself is life is not just about the introductory handshake. The follow-up can prove to be the most important at times. So let's openly digest the concept of critical reflection on praxis so that we can learn how to take action against our assumptions. Next slide, please. For educators, critical reflection on praxis can be done within the context of your teaching practices. So engaging in cycles of critical reflection on praxis equip teachers with the skills to examine their social realities, examine student outcomes, engage in perspective taking, enact problem solving, interrogate their personal assumptions, examine marginalization issues, and deconstructing existing social order. The opportunity and ability to develop and exercise these skills are critical to supporting culturally appropriate practices. Critical reflection on praxis can support in combating the lack of understanding by educators regarding the essential cultural differences and their limited or no engagement with value systems of support operating within the communities different than those they have traditionally experienced or have traditionally worked with or even had the opportunity to learn. Strategy on praxis involves identifying the problem within the context of the targeted students. So we want to keep in mind that this is not a one-size-fits-all situation. We should come into each to the identifying the problem phase with an open mind. Also, analyzing the problem through a culturally appropriate lens. And this is going to take a lot of time and practice as we have new perspectives to consider, and we're trying to work on incorporating these into our current worldly view. Also, creating a plan of action to address the problem. So the action part is very key. We can come together, we can talk, we can discuss, we can exchange knowledge, but this without action really is not enough to tackle this problem. So this is both an individual and a collective effort that takes a level of commitment from all participants. The actual implementation of the plan, that's a part of the practice strategy. So once again, this is very important, and analysis and evaluation of the action. So that reflection part is very important as well, as you can do this individually, but it's also a collective effort. Next slide, please. So Paulo Freire says that true knowledge emerges only through restlessness, impatient, continuing, hopeful, critical inquiry with other people about their relations to the world. So this is a collective process, and it will involve us to interact, listen, and engage with others whom have varying perspectives and experiences. He also spoke on a few concepts that support critical reflection on praxis, such as dialogue. So during dialogue, individuals must trust the others to maintain a mutual respect and commitment. Each individual must question what they know and realize that through dialogue, existing thoughts will change and new knowledge will be created. So we have to be very open when we're engaging in dialogue with others. Also, Paulo Freire speaks on the Easter experience. And this is really speaking on the commitment that it takes in order for us to continuously go through the cycle of praxis, right? So those who authentically commit themselves to the people or commit themselves to equity, diversity, inclusion efforts, they must re-examine themselves constantly. This is not a one-type situation. This is something that you do continuously, and it takes practice and a lot of patience with yourself as well. Those who undergo it can no longer remain as they were. So if you successfully are reflecting and going through critical reflection on your praxis, you should come back with different thoughts, a different perspective, or at least a different view on what you actually were reflecting on. Lastly, they do not mix feelings or contradictory ideas about something or someone, right? So we have to get outside of ourselves. There's no space for ambivalent behavior. The last concept that Paulo Freire speaks on is conscientization, or the process of developing a critical awareness of one's social reality through reflection and action. As we know, that's a part and a piece of praxis. Since we all acquire social myths of the dominant tendency, conscientization contributes to the liberation from our, contributes to us liberating ourselves from our own assumptions. Those assumptions that may hinder educators' ability or capacity to implement culturally appropriate practices, which are proven by research to increase positive student outcomes, not just for marginalized populations, but for all students. So let's keep these concepts in mind as we move towards our final activity of this seminar. Next slide, please.